Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, City Current CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome back to the City Current Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And that's why we're coming to you. We're recording this on World Mental Health Day, and so it's very appropriate. We're here to talk with April Landry. She's a nurse and brand ambassador for Freeman Recovery Center. Very powerful story to share, but April, how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be able to talk today with you about mental health on World Mental Health Day. How appropriate and timely. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, this all starts for you with your personal story, and we'll tie all that into when you talk about the good being done with Freeman Recovery Center. We'll tie that in for sure. But give us a little bit of your story. When you're out there sharing and talking about your story, where do you like to begin?
Yeah. So really, I think it's important, especially for those of us that are in recovery, to share our experience. That's all I can really share is just my story and my experience. And really where that begins in terms of the start of everything was in childhood. I didn't realize that until I was older. But in 2015, I went to treatment for mental health and addiction. I was struggling with some mental health and trauma, and as a result was medicating that with alcohol, and really just everything in my life really spiraled at that time. And really what brought me to seek help and treatment was the deep, dark depression and suicidal thoughts that I was having. And really that was all centered in hopelessness and not understanding a way out. What's really interesting about that is that I was a nurse and I had resources, I had insurance, and I had support, and I certainly knew about resources, but it was my shame that kept me isolating, and it was my shame that kept me suffering in silence. And so that's just one of many barriers that we have when we are looking to reach out for help. And so I like to talk about that because even those of us that have had resources, have support, there's still that element of shame and guilt that keeps us from reaching out and getting the help we need. But in 2015, I went to treatment, and it was really an experience for me to look at, wow, all of the things in my life that I didn't realize were affecting me, growing up in foster care and some childhood trauma that as a result of some of those unsafe situations, it was really manifesting in my adult life. And it was coming out in ways that I didn't understand. And so today, years later, while I certainly work a program of recovery, a big part of that is also addressing the underlying trauma, some of those old ideas and belief systems that were just within me growing up as a child, believing that I wasn't worthy or loved. So some of that like reparenting work that I do now. As a mother of 5, I have the opportunity today to love on my children and hopefully give them something, be more attuned to their needs and give them something that I was missing as a child. But part of that recovery for me today is reparenting that inner child, that little girl, as a part of my healing and recovery from not just substance use disorder, but mental health as well. So that's kind of a quick summary of where I'm at today. So.
Yeah, and I want to dive in deeper, on that side, the hope and healing. I've got one question kind of on the story side is when you're going through it, a lot of times people have to hit rock bottom or there's an intervention from family and friends. Was it something that you made the conscious decision to say, hey, I need to go and seek help and I need, outside, I need to get away and to really focus on myself? Or were there, either was there a moment or were there friends and family that stepped in to intervene? Like talk about kind of that process of where that catalyst kicked in for you.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Everyone's bottom looks different. Mine, I was still functioning full time, working as a nurse. And, externally, if you didn't know what was happening to me, and a lot of people didn't in my personal life, you wouldn't have seen those like extrinsic and those external consequences. Like I never got a DUI. I didn't lose custody of my children. I didn't go through a divorce. I didn't lose my home. All of those things that sometimes that is the story for someone else, and that is their bottom, jail, incarceration, things like that. But for me, my bottom was spiritual bankruptcy. There's a term that you hear, when you're talking with people that are in recovery, and that for me looked like I felt so hopeless. I felt so disconnected from God because my faith is an anchor for me in my life and a foundation. But I felt so disconnected. And I would look in the mirror, I didn't even know who I was. And so really my motivating factor was more intrinsic and internal. I had not yet suffered any external consequences. And, I'm thankful for that because I still have my nursing license and I still have, things in my life didn't fall apart externally, but I was suffering in silence and dying inside spiritually. And that's really the catalyst for me seeking help, is that I was suicidal and didn't know another way, and was like, I just don't want to wake up. I don't want to do this anymore. And for me, that was the catalyst.
And I think that's important because then you are willing to go and get help, because that is, to me, a powerful piece of this is the accepting for yourself, saying, I need help and I want to get help and I want to get better. And for you, the spiritual bankruptcy, saying, hey, something's wrong. I want to be on the right path. I want to fix this. And I think that acceptance, but also that willingness then paves the way for the blessing, which obviously then unfolds. And so talk about how you found Freeman Recovery Center.
Yeah. So, and what a gift for me to be able to be in this role and to be able to work for Freeman Recovery Center. I just have to say that because I look at my life today compared to where it was when I was active in addiction and struggling with, just the flashbacks and the trauma. And I think this is what recovery is about, this beautiful life that I get to live today, and being a sober mom and being able to go into the community and represent Freeman Recovery Center, who I've known and I've worked with for some years in a previous role. But Freeman Recovery Center is an addiction and mental health treatment facility. And we have a full continuum of care from inpatient medically monitored detox to outpatient levels of care with housing. We have a nonprofit that we just launched to help clients with the social determinants of health. We have a clinic for mental health and primary care, because oftentimes in our active addiction, we neglect our own health care. We're not thinking of preventative care, or certainly not thinking of how to take care of anything within our physical and mental health. So that was also, that's a new development and a new program. And so, it's such an amazing opportunity to be able to be a part of an organization who really wants to serve the community and has wraparound services and has a nonprofit now, because we understand that treatment is great. Treatment is, you can go to treatment, you can receive clinical care, you can receive a medical detox, but recovery is what happens when you leave treatment. And that's really what we want to focus on, is how do we create a culture of recovery? Most of our staff are in recovery themselves. And so you're going to come to us and feel loved and embraced and not need any judgment, because most of us have been there and we can say, I've been where you're at. And so that culture of recovery is one of the things that I think stands us apart, in that we understand community is essential to recovery. We don't recover alone. You will not stay sober alone. If you have, please reach out to me. I'd like to know. But everyone that I've met, we are designed for human relationship. We're designed for connection. And so in every area of our life that we need healing, we need community. Whether you're talking about substance use disorder and recovery, mental health, trauma, whatever it is, grief support, we have to have community.
And I think knowing that you all have lived these experiences to then help others is a really powerful piece of the equation. And so for those who say, I need help, but I'm intimidated, like I'm scared, like I don't know what that looks like. Talk about the journey and where it starts. And so kind of, talk about the hand holding through the process.
Yeah, well, I've worked with, and this is even my story, where you might recognize that you have a problem, and start getting curious. You're curious about like what would that be like to be sober. But that stage alone can take months, years, and so it doesn't happen overnight. And I think one of the things that we can do as family members or caregivers or loved ones, people of support, is not be afraid to have a conversation with someone that we think is struggling. They may be so relieved that someone cares enough to sit in some discomfort for a few moments and say, I love you, but I notice some changes in you and I'm concerned about you. And if you can come to someone with compassion and with love and with empathy instead of judgment, oftentimes someone will open up and they'll share with you, yeah, I'm struggling. Not always. Again, there's that element of shame that really keeps us in isolation. However, you're certainly not going to get anywhere if you go to someone with judgment and throwing stones. And so coming to someone and addressing them out of concern and love and being very blunt with, I know these changes. I notice these changes and I love you and I care enough about you to say that I notice these changes and how can I help? But that really is the first step. It's just being able to sit in some discomfort and have a hard conversation with someone that you love.
Obviously, you yourself are a success story in terms of the power of this, right? The hope and healing. But you don't have to name names, but when you talk about Freeman Recovery Center and the transformation that takes place, talk about what you have a chance to see in others.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, I can share this without breaking any anonymity, really, but, I recently sponsored a girl that she had not ever had that length of sobriety ever in her life, other than going through the program at Freeman. I was not working there at the time, so I wasn't violating any boundaries and being her sponsor at the time. But, just her progression and seeing, as someone who cared for her and loved her and was there to walk alongside her through her early recovery, she completed all levels of care and then went to a local sober living. And then that's where the work that she and I did together picked up. But Dixon has such a beautiful recovery community. She was embraced by a local church. I was able to go with her to be baptized. She would go to local meetings. And that transformation, she spent her first Christmas sober with her little girl, went up to another state to visit, and got to spend a sober Christmas with her little girl for the first time ever. Those are the types of life changes that I've been able to see in my personal and professional life. And so, and one thing that I know and that I've seen and that I've experienced being from a generational lineage of addiction and trauma is that when you heal a mother, you can heal a generation. And so when we're restoring families and we're getting, moms back on track with their lives and they can restore families and fathers. And I mean, that creates such a healthy community. And that's really the point of all this, is that we want to see families restored. We want people's lives to be redeemed, and we want to see a healthy community flourishing.
So you mentioned kind of the nonprofit side and launching that to be able to help underwrite a lot of these efforts. How can the community get involved and support Freeman Recovery Center?
Yeah, so we do have our nonprofit, and really that the nonprofit arm was developed as a result of such a great need for providing things such as food. Food insecurity is a really big deal right now. And so we have clients that are in outpatient levels of care or through the clinic and maybe live in the community or in the housing that were struggling with basic needs. And what we know is that you will not stay sober if your basic needs like food, shelter, clothing aren't being met. And so we wanted to support our clients and our community by developing this nonprofit. And so you can go to our website. You can certainly reach out to me as well, because we're really looking to grow that initiative and our support with the nonprofit. And so you can reach me at a.landry@freemanrecoverycenter.com. Reach out to us on our website. We have a Facebook, we have a TikTok, we have all types of social media as well. And we like to have fun. So we are a very fun work culture. And I hope that is displayed through our social media outlets. So follow us on socials as well to keep up with us.
You never can say it enough in the world of media. So mention again the website where we can go to learn more and obviously find all the resources and everything online for Freeman Recovery Center.
Yeah, so freemanrecoverycenter.com. That is our landing page for Freeman Recovery Center. We also have a Facebook and a TikTok and an Instagram. And, one of the things that I do for Freeman is community events. So please follow us on those platforms. I have a LinkedIn. You can follow me as well, where I post about upcoming events. We do things like blood drives. We do community events to raise awareness and talk about important topics like suicide prevention and overdose awareness. So just be sure to follow us on all of our socials as well so you can keep up with us.
Well, April, thank you so much for sharing your story, for all you do to power the good with Freeman Recovery Center. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the City Current Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.